up, party people? Welcome to the first edition of DJ to DJ in 2021. I am your man, DJ Fernando G. As always, we have yet another amazing talent. And today I'm talking to my brother, whom I had the opportunity to work with at not one station, but two radio stations. Today we're talking to David Rolas. What's up, brother? David, how are you, man?
I'm doing wonderful, Fernando. It's always good to see you, bro. It's been a minute, but we made it through 2020, bien y sanitos, gracias a Dios. And,
yes, amen.
Y aquí estamos, bro, echándole ganas, echándole chingazos, bro. Doing what we got to do to make it pop off,
Exactly.
Staying safe.
Exactly. But still I'm trying to make a dime here and there, right?
Oh, yeah. You got to make it work. You got to make it work, man.
Exactly. Well, listen, it has been a minute. So as always, we're going to take a trip down memory lane. We're going to flash back a little bit. And we're going to go when David, just before he became Dave Jams, because that's how I remember you from back in the day. So let's talk about how you discovered DJing. When was that first time that you heard about DJing, or you saw turntables, or you saw somebody spinning and you said, that's what I want to do? Let's go back to that moment.
So I had a mutual friend of the family. His name is Tony. His sister had a boyfriend who went by the name of DJ Ace, and he had been DJing for a really long time. I was about 13 years old, and I got to see, him in action, in the sense, because back in those days it was more playing music off of, you were lucky if you had a turntable and even a mixer. And I mean, we go back to the realistic mixers from Radio Shack. I mean, those were, and to this day, even those mixers are amazing, because you can still use them as preamps. It's funny.
Yep.
But yeah, man, I saw my boy DJ Ace, and rocking on one turntable and a cassette deck. and it was interesting to me, because the whole vinyl concept, and even just being able to fade in between records, it just captured me. And not only that, but I mean, my dad was a music manager for a really long time for a lot of bands.
Cool.
Used to work for a couple record labels when I was a kid, and I kind of had the music already flowing in my blood, so Ace hit me up and he was like, hey, how would you like to help me out, do some parties, some quinceañeras and stuff like that? And I said, yeah, man, let's do it. So, I was more like kind of like his intern, in the sense, I was helping him out, doing gigs for free. He'd kick me down a little something every once in a while, but
cool.
But I was with him for a few years, and to the transition to where he eventually ended up getting the 1200s, getting the Newmark mixer with the sampler, and
nice.
And I mean, it was just fascinating to me. And
remember that little round circle that was
had
a little effect fader on it.
Yeah. So we did that, and it was fun. I was with Ace for a really long time. We started a little DJ crew called the Freestyle Syndicate, and we did a lot of parties, a lot of house parties, a lot of quinceañeras, a lot of weddings, which was really, really cool, man. But I've been doing it, I've been wanting to do it for a long time, and when the opportunity came, I just jumped on it. I was really young doing it, so I started young, so I think it was a good opportunity for me to kind of get my feet wet.
That's cool. Now, during this podcast, I've talked to so many different DJs, and everybody has that moment when they finally actually discover how to beat mix, because we all started off shitty. I mean, it was just like we were either cutting or we were like riding the faders and thinking it sounded awesome, but it was like massive horse races, And so it was like, so when did you actually realize, and you said, that's how you beat mix? So what was that moment like?
I think one of the first things that I learned was writing the pitch control. Being able to, because at that time I wasn't 100% sure about how, and this is way before, we had internet and all that. So it was an adventure, just trying to learn how to match the pitch of the records.
Right.
And especially when you learn on one turntable and a cassette deck, it's a little different, But once we got the turntable,
try a turntable and an 8-track, bro. That's how I started.
That's dope, though. See, those are DJ roots. A lot of cats don't even. What's an 8-track?
Right.
You know what I mean? But yeah, man. I think with me it was writing the pitch, and trying to listen to the rhythms of the actual songs. And that's kind of how you start putting your sets together,
Mm-hmm.
because you start looking for the vinyl that kind of more or less sounds, the same pitch wise. And then I think it was just an evolution of just being able to ride the pitch and try to, of course, use your fingers and spin the platter and learning those things with patience. It takes a lot of patience, and that's what a lot of people still don't understand about
Yeah.
learning. Everybody's a DJ now.
Yeah.
And I'm not mocking anybody. Power to everybody that's wants to be a DJ and that's like learning. But for me, it was really important to make sure that I learned how to do it correctly. It was fun at the same time, able to learn something new. But yeah, man, I mean, I think I was like 15 when I was finally able to. It took me a couple of years, but when I was finally able to really grasp the whole idea of being able to control the pitch.
Right.
And at that time, I was going to high school in Downey. I went to Pius X High School. But my freshman year, I went to Cathedral. Then I transferred to Pius X with my sister because it was co-ed. So my dad was like, "You guys got to go to this co-ed school." Oh, okay, it's cool. But I was very fortunate. There, I met one of my best friends, my compadre Johnny Aftershock.
Cool.
We went to high school together, and so we used to commute on the bus back and forth. And so what I used to do is I would catch the bus to his house, and he lived in Compton, and he had a set of turntables techniques that his mom had got for him. So he was a master at the shit. Like he just learned he grasped it. And I don't know how his process was, but I learned a lot from Johnny, as far as when it came down to pitch matching and actually counting the BPMs, which I think was
Right.
really important. That was something that I learned how to do on my watch, and it's the old school method,
Right. Yep.
which is, you count for
Beats
30
per minute.
seconds. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You count 30 seconds, double it, and then you go, there you go. And
That's
that's
it.
as accurate as you can get to try to get the pitch control as close as possible. But
Now, did you grab your vinyl and start writing down, 128, 135, so that you
well,
knew which record matched which?
so I'll tell you what we used to do. So what I used to do is I used to take the little stickers that came in the cassettes. The cassettes used to come with a little sticker in there, so you could label the cassette and then stick it on the cassette. So I used to use
Right.
those, and I used to actually just put those on. So I didn't want to put them on the actual vinyl, so I put them on the sleeve.
Ah,
You know what I mean?
smart.
So I would just put the little sticker on the sleeve, and I would put 120 BPM, 90 BPM,
Right.
and that's kind of how I started building my sets. And then I would know, like, okay, well, if this one's 90 and this one's 92, I got to pitch it up a couple more, a couple pluses, and then we'll be all right. So it obviously helped me a lot. And I mean, obviously with practice, it makes it perfect. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But it was hard for a few years, man. It was really hard trying to grasp the concept of being able to beat match,
Yeah.
But
I remember back in the day when I first got started, man, I mean, I was messing around. I mean, I just all the music that was coming out. We're talking about the early 80s, and all the new wave, the disco, and then, slowly transitioning, like when Planet Rock came out, brother.
oh
I mean,
yeah,
that song was just like, oh my God, it was amazing. And I remember mixing everything. I mean, I was mixing B-52s with Soul Sonic Force, with freaking George Clinton, I mean, I
yeah,
was all over the place, you know what I mean? But to
right.
me, it was just like the music that I liked. Just all these songs were so freaking awesome. And I remember, because I went to junior high with A.J. Mora, and I would bring
Yes,
my cassette tapes to him, and I would tell him, hey, bro, listen to this. And A.J. at the time, he wasn't nowhere into
right,
DJing or
right.
anything. He was doing music, piano and stuff like that. But he used to trip out on that, and it's just back in those days, it was just a different monster because everything had to be by ear. It's not like today where you have a wave file and you can see the BPMs on your laptop. I mean, everything
Yeah,
was ear and manually doing it.
yeah. And you're right. That's why I had a hard. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I love the digital era now. I love how everything is more simplified. But it doesn't take me away from still having my turntables, having my
Yeah.
Vestex mixer. As a matter of fact, I just got my turntables serviced, so they're like brand new
Brand
babies right
new,
now.
yeah.
Oh man, I'm excited. And I haven't actually turned them on yet because I'm gonna go dig in them some crates and bring some vinyl back. But yeah, man, I think the digital era is amazing with what Serato's doing, with what a
Yeah.
lot of these programs are doing. Virtual DJ, which was one of the first ones that
Hmm.
that, that even came out. Um, but I had a real hard time. I'm not gonna lie to you. I had a hard time transitioning from vinyl to the digital side of it. I mean, I had already messed with some pioneers and stuff, so it was
Hmm.
still, it was kind of a vibe. It was a cool learning experience to be able to do that. And I own a couple pioneers as well. But yeah, it was the transition was a little difficult because learning on turntables and coming from the old school era and there's just a value that you give to the process of using a turntable. It,
Yeah.
it still fascinates me, like even how inaccurate the pitch is, but it's accurate. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And you're right. Like now with the Serato and with everything that's going on in the digital era, you got it's like cheating, bro. Like you know what I'm
I
saying?
know. You
It's
feel bad, right? It's like, I
yeah,
don't want to
you still feel kind of bad, and then you're
look.
at the end of the day, So that's right. Like even my older daughter wants to, learn how to DJ, and I told her, well, first, now that I got the turntables back, I want to show you on the turntables because I
Hmm.
wanted to learn that before
Yeah.
she learns on the Pioneer on the
Excellent.
BBK. So um, even that's to me, it's still crucial for a DJ to learn to be able to rock on turntables.
Yeah.
I had to make the transition, of course, because us as club DJs and doing gigs and so forth and so on, a lot of the clubs started, getting all these new systems and
Yeah.
Serato systems and everything. So, it had to be even when Serato 1 was out with the vinyl, um, it's still digital now. So
Yeah.
you could still cheat and you could still get the BPMs and you could do all that. So I had a hard time doing the transition, but I did it. And I mean, I love it. I do my radio shows with that now. And it's one of the easiest forms of being able to transmit your music,
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think that with the digital era and everything, it helps us to be also get a little more creative, with effects and sampling and things that we couldn't do on just two turntables and a two-channel mixer.
right.
I mean, we could scratch. That was
Yeah.
cool. And then
Right.
you can have an outside sampler maybe to mess around with,
Right.
but you had to have a bunch of equipment to make things happen. I remember my buddy Phil Divine Madness, he came in with this an effects module one day and he hooked it up and everything. And then I remember when the tripling first came in and you would
Yeah.
backbeat a song and you would do this and all this stuff, and
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I felt cool doing this. Then all of a sudden he hooks up this effects module and then he hits a button and it starts doing it by itself, and I was like, what the hell? And I'm like, what the hell did you do there? He's all, I just added a delay and I did this and I did that. And I'm like, you rat bastard. I'm on, here I am trying to figure it out. And he pushes a button, man. And I'm like,
Yeah.
so now,
Technology, bro.
yeah,
Technology.
technology, you got this all in a simple little controller. I mean, to
Right.
where you and we used to have to carry crates and then we had to carry cases of
Man,
CDs. And now you carry a freaking flash drive and you're set.
flash drive or even just your laptop. I mean, it's
Right.
yeah. Talking about that, and I think that's the one thing too, and I think that's another reason too that I had to really figure out and make that transition because as we get older, we started thinking about like, damn man, you're doing an hour set and you're taking two crates of records,
Yeah.
and if you're DJing 4 hours, for example, because I had a lot of residencies, so I would have to eventually, take a bunch of vinyl with me,
Yeah.
and to the point where the homies were getting in free to the club because you're walking in with like everybody's walking in with a crate of records,
Yeah.
and I even talking about that, I got a really cool story about that. So I was DJing at this place in Eagle Rock. Excuse me. I was DJing in Eagle Rock with a couple people. With my boy Arvin, rest in peace. He was doing a club in Eagle Rock, and Taboo from the Black Eyed Peas used to come and hang out all the time at the club. Taboo's a little bit younger than me, but Taboo was always into like the break dancing and the the whole dance movement,
dance vibe,
the whole
yeah.
break dancing side of it. That's how he kind of started, But he used to show up to the club and they wouldn't let him into the club because he was underage. So he, lo and behold, hey, Dave Jams, can you get me in? Can you get me? And I'm like, and all he wanted to do was dance. He didn't want to come, he didn't drink, he didn't party, he didn't, but all he wanted to do was come and dance. And that's how I used to get him into the club. He used to come in with me and help me carry the
He
records
was your
literally
roadie.
into the club. There it is. And and ever since then, I mean, Taboo and I have become really, really close friends. I mean, we're still good friends. We've done music together and we've experience that side of it as well. But yeah, man, Taboo and I are still very, very good friends. But that was
Very
a really
cool.
cool story. But that's what it was. The homies used to get in for free because they used to help me carry the crates into the club. You know.
Classic, classic. So let's backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
I met you back in, I think it was 1990, I think, or 89 or 90.
1990.
1990. I was the music research director at Power 106. That was my first radio gig ever. And then somebody walks in one day and they introduced me to Dave Jams. And I remember you know, walking through the hallways and, you know, we used to chat. And I don't recall. Did you work in promotions with us also? Or you were straight up board ops?
So I did. I went straight into to the board hopping side of it. But of course, when you do radio, there's a little bit of something. You want to learn everything. I was going to school at Cerritos College. At the same time, I was when I literally graduated high school when I graduated in '90. I used to reach out to I had a friend of mine. His nickname is Butter. My boy Jose. His name is Butter. And Butter used to listen to Power all the time. And when they used to do the Saturday night dance party at the Palace,
Yeah.
with Frank Lozano.
Frank Lozano.
And so he used to call in all the time to Power and talk to Frank all the time. And when I graduated high school, before I graduated, he was like, hey, you know, I talk to this guy on the radio sometimes. You should reach out to him and see if maybe you can intern or something. Because I already knew what I wanted to do. Aside of making music, because I was already kind of like working on beats and trying to do some little rhymes here and there. But I knew that I wanted to do radio. I wanted to get into communications. That was just, it fascinated me, you know? So anyway, yeah, so I did. One night I reached out to Lozano and he's like, well, when you graduate, you know, I'll talk to the manager and we definitely always look for interns and stuff. And so yeah, that's what happened. So I reached out to Lozano. He invited me down. I filled out the application and man, the rest is history. I was part of the Loose crew with Lozano on the Loose.
I remember
crew.
that.
And that's kind of where I started. And then from there, I also went into promotions, did some promotion stuff, and then I worked with Michelle Mercer, helping her with music stuff as well.
Music selection, yeah. Michelle was cool, man.
Yeah, Michelle was very cool.
Very
And
cool.
I got to tell you something. But it was, you know, I'm thankful for the opportunity to, you know, because Rick Cummings was the one that gave me the opportunity. I mean, he was amazing. You know, he's amazing, and he opened that door for me. And he said, well, he's the one that actually, it's funny because he's the one that threw me on the air one night. He was just like, I think you'd be great on the air. You know, you should maybe work on, you know, doing some, you know, work overnights a little bit. And, you know, maybe we can get you on to do some like, you know, on air stuff. And to me, it was like the fastest 2 years of my life. Everything in those 2 years that I was there, it was almost 3 years. But anyway, the time that I was there, everything moved so fast.
Yeah.
But going back a little bit, I remember working with Michelle, and I remember the day that I was just like in heaven. She says, so I need you to go to the record library and I need you to empty out all the record library of all the vinyl from, I think she said from the 80s and backwards. So, and then I go, well, what do you want me to do with the records? And she's like, just put them out. You know how they used to do? They used to put the vinyl out in the hallways and stuff. And whoever grab first come first serve, you grab your vinyl. So she's like, well, just put them out in the hallways. And I said, well, if we're gonna give them out, I mean, can I get first dips? You know what I mean? And she's like, well, yeah, of course. So, dude, I gotta say that's where I got most of my incredible '70s collection from, and that stemmed into me really doing a lot of the clubs, being a '70s DJ, because you know. A lot of DJs didn't do that back then. Everybody was on the freestyle tip. Everybody was on the disco vibe and on the hip hop stuff. But I said, man, that could be a niche. So I started practicing my 70 sets, and that was, I think, one of the hardest things to learn, because 70s music, everything is live. Yeah. So all the pitch control, all the pitches are different. All the BPMs
doing this thing all day long. Yeah.
Writing faders all day.
Yeah.
I mean, pitch, but you know, but very blessed that thanks to Michelle Mercer, I have still one of the dopest 70s collections.
That's awesome.
And a lot, you know, it's actually funny because a lot of them still say Magic 106 on them.
Crazy, dude. Crazy. That's funny because I remember it because I worked with Al Tavera. So this was before you came in.
Yeah,
I was doing music research. So basically, he and I shared offices. and I would go in there and start inputting all the details. And one of my employees, I remember, he was diehard because this is when CDs started coming out, and he wanted to collect CDs. And if I went to the restroom or to the kitchen or something, this guy would sneak in. I'm not gonna say who it is. He and I are still great friends, but
I
this
think I have
fool,
an idea.
this fool, I would come in, and I never forget this, man, because he would come in and I would have my back towards the CDs, So he would be talking to me and stuff, and I'd be typing away because we had to input the information, and it was tons and tons of forms. So I ended up becoming really good with 10 key and just inputting and stuff. But I had my back towards him. So this fool would come in, hey bro, and this and that, start talking to me while he's taking freaking CDs. So one day I come back from the restroom or from the kitchen or something, and as I walk in, and I was reading one of the forums and stuff, and I walk in and I look up, this guy's up on Altavera's desk, standing on it, reaching, and he's stuffing CDs on his shirt, dude. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing, dude? Oh, I was just checking something out, bro. I heard a noise, and he's making all these excuses, dude.
That's funny.
And we won't mention names, but you know
Like
who
I
I'm
said,
talking about.
I already kind of have an idea who this was. You know what I mean? But I'm gonna leave it there. You know what I mean?
It was freaking hilarious, dude.
Good times, man.
Now, I ended up leaving. I went to the Spanish market. I went to K-Love, and I became promotions director. You stayed on air for a little while, and then you and I lost touch from that point on because we went on different roads. What happened after doing the on-air Stench of Power 106? What did you transition to after that?
So after I left Power, I still wanted to do radio. I knew I still wanted to do radio. And radio's, I mean, as you know, radio in Los Angeles is very competitive.
Yes.
And I ended up taking a break from radio for a couple years, and I ended up just working on, dude, I was just DJing, doing the club circuit. I was getting gig, like I was basically DJing. I think Mondays was my only day off. And I was DJing like Tuesday through Sunday, and I had clubs, residencies, and I did it for a really, really, really long time, and very blessed, that back in those days, it was about getting those residencies, and once you had those residencies, I mean, shoot, there was, there were blessings, because then you'd be making, really cool money, DJing, because, you were booked all the time. And then you had those 1 or 2 clubs that you did residencies that were guaranteed contract and money all the time. So I was very blessed. Then I started recording music. I started working on and putting an album out back in. So in '92, right before I left Power, I did a song called "Out of the Ashes" with Matthew J. Stone, who was a later member of Stop, the disco group Stop. So he was in the disco group Stop, but he was one of the later members of the group. So I ended up doing a record with him. I cut a hip hop record called "Out of the Ashes," and it was right after the riots. So what we did is we took the proceeds of that record, and we donated it to the back to the community, so that to rebuild and so forth. It was a company called Rebuild Inc., and they were rebuilding stores and so forth. So I did that. I also worked with Beverly. Do you remember Beverly, our office manager?
Yes.
So I cut a couple of records with Beverly and her husband.
Wow, cool.
I cut a couple records with her after I left, and then I started really digging more into my musical roots as far as like producing and writing and songwriting and stuff. So I did a few things. Eventually, I got a deal. I got a record deal with Fonovisa Records. Signed a 3-album deal with them, and I always loved being able to, I think it's always a blessing being able to be bilingual and be able to be fluent in Spanish. So I did this deal with Univision, with Fonovisa, and I put out 3 records, 3 albums with them. Got to work with amazing, talented producers, artists, Ozo Motley, Taboo, Aquid. Worked with a lot of people. But then the opportunity came. Oh, and actually, let me backtrack a little bit. So I decided to get back into radio, and I don't remember exactly if you were still there or you were moving somewhere else, but I ended up at Univision Radio, and I started working for Piolín. I was in the promotions department. You were still there.
Yes.
So I did promotions for a while, and then I did a lot of work with Piolín. I was one of these morning guys for a street team for Piolín, so I did that. But at the same time, I was putting music out and all that good stuff. Then I got sick. I ended up having to leave Univision because I had a minor stroke. I got
I
sick
did
one day
not
on the
know that,
job.
bro.
Yeah, that's the reason that I left actually.
Hmm.
So we were working Pico River, and I won't forget. It was Pico River Sports Arena, and we were getting ready for one of the festivals for
Yeah.
the radio station for La Nueva, and I started feeling like these really bad pains in my neck and felt sore and just felt weird. Just my body started feeling really weird, and I got home, got some rest, and that night I ended up having it was a minor stroke, but yeah, I was out of commission for about 10 months
Wow.
uh, in rehabilitation, trying to get my the whole right side of my body was my arms weren't functioning properly, my hands, my leg. So it took a lot of acupuncture, a lot of money. I was blessed because I was getting residuals from my music, so being out of the job for a little bit, and you can only do uh, what do they call that? When you get sick at the job, I could only
Yeah.
get so much
The
money
disability.
disability. Yeah, I could only
Hmm.
get so much disability. So, but anyway, I got sick in the middle of a tour. I was still touring when I was working at Univision. I was still touring, so I was touring, and I had a tour coming with Evie Queen. We were supposed to do North Carolina, and it was the last show that I did. And I did the show because I was contractually bound to them,
Hmm.
and but I did it malo. So I
Oh
was
wow.
yeah, I still did it, and I was sick. And after that, it was my last show that I did on the road for a while till I got better. But yeah, man, I had acupuncture, so I had to like stop doing music for a while, stop doing everything. And I think one of the things the doctor told me too, he says, you're wearing too many hats. You're trying to do too much at one
Mm.
time. You're doing everything by yourself, so you need to get yourself better so you can get back and get yourself a manager, do this, do that. And eventually, I didn't listen to the doctor. I still do everything myself.
Yeah.
I
You're
do
the
take care of
young
myself.
guy that says I can do it. Yo puedo. No mames, güey.
Yeah, right. But acupuncture helped me a lot to
That's
get
good.
better, and that's I because of that, I still I'm 100% now, and I've been for a lot of years now, and
Congratulations, bro. That's great.
yeah, but it was that transition, that getting sick period kind of like made me think a lot about, do I want to continue this career? Do I still want to do this?
Hmm.
And I did, man. After I got better, I was still doing clubs, I was still doing residencies, and I was very blessed that when I came back, me empezaron a salir gigs like left and right because they were like, oh, Rolas is back and Dave Jams is back, like this. So yeah, man, I was very blessed to still be working, but that's one of the reasons too that you have to, and I think all those nights and too many drinks
Yep.
and all the extracurricular activities,
Yeah.
when you're younger, sometimes take a toll on your body and on,
Yeah,
on you.
they do.
So sometimes, you got to learn to take it slow. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
No, and it's true. Like, I mean, we were talking right now offline about our health and stuff and staying in shape. When you got multiple things that you're working on, I
Yeah.
mean, you cannot just be mentally stable. You got to be physically fit, man. Your body's got to be at 100% to be able to
Yep.
handle all the different tasks that you
Yep.
want to conquer.
Yep.
And that's why, like, you said that you've been exercising, eating right, and I started doing the same thing, and I feel a lot better. I do have a lot more energy to be able to handle all the things that are going on. And I think
Yeah,
that's
man.
something very important to
And I mean, we got kids
deal with.
now, bro. You got to keep up with the kids. You know what I mean? You got to show
Exactly.
them a great example. So we do. We try to eat as healthy as possible at home. I'm diabetic as well. I have diabetes, so I need to make sure that I take care of my health and I lose the weight because I was big, bro. I mean, I've lost easily close to 100 pounds, and
Good for you.
and it,
Congratulations.
but bro, thank you, bro. But it feels good. Your
Yeah.
body automatically. It's just you can. I mean, you sense it and you see it,
Mm-hmm.
and you feel better, like
Yeah.
you a lot more energy
It's
now. I can,
funny.
yeah, yeah, man.
Because
It's
I like, for me, like what I started doing, I literally just started walking like not even a mile.
right,
And
right,
now I'm up to 4.5, and now I'm running. And it's
yeah,
funny because like my wife notices that when I do the running and stuff, I come back and I'm like wired the
yeah,
entire day. And
yeah.
like around 9:30 is when boom, yeah, I drop. I'm like, okay, I'm done. you know. And it's like,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
throughout the day, you got more energy. You're like, I'm like wired. It's weird.
I agree with you. Yeah, so I mean that's if I could recommend anything is definitely stay healthy, eat right, and and especially if you want a longevity in this business, I mean, desafortunadamente because of the way COVID is going, everything is going now.
Yeah.
There's other outlets, for DJs now. For example, like your DJ to DJ show. Twitch has opened up an opportunity for a lot of DJs to
Yeah.
continue their DJing careers. I mean, big shout out to all the DJs that are on Twitch as well, doing gigs
Yeah.
and shows. I see Alex Diablo in there all the time doing shows, and
Yeah.
the house
Yeah.
parties from the '90s. These guys,
Yeah.
all the homies are doing stuff still, which is it's really cool because they're opening new doors, new technological,
Exactly.
um, opportunities for the new DJs that are coming out now. So I think technology is great now, especially during these COVID times.
Yeah.
And pero con más razón, bigger reason for you to stay safe, take care of yourself, take care of your health, and man, stay home. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
just
if you
just
don't
a
need to
little
be
while
out,
longer. Just a little
yeah,
while
man,
longer.
yeah, man. I
So
mean,
so again, you and I had lost touch.
yes,
And back in what was it? I think it was 2012.
yes,
I was at Exitos. I was doing promotions marketing, and I get a call from Andrew Forthmuller. Wants to talk to me, and he was the corporate marketing director for SBS, Spanish Broadcasting Systems, which are the owners for Latino 96.3 and La Raza 97.9, right? And so there you go. There you go. And so I end up taking the gig there as the marketing promotions director. And he says, here's our media kit. Start getting to know it and this, and that. And I had, listened to Latino 96.3. I really didn't pay attention to the DJs because I was in another world at the time. And I wasn't DJing. I wasn't producing. So I would listen to the music. I knew about reggaeton and all this stuff. And so then I start looking through the media kit. And then I think you were on 3 to 7.
no, I was on 7 to midnight.
7 to midnight. You're on 7 to midnight. And I'm looking, and then I said, David Rolas. I said, man, this guy looks familiar. Why does this guy look familiar? And then my nephew, Lenny G, he was already working there. And he's all, David Rolas, you know him, you worked with him. And I'm like, I don't remember David Rolas and this and that. And I'm like, okay. And then the first time I saw you was in the hallway. You were talking to Anita, which is the
Yeah,
executive assistant there.
yeah.
And then I'm all like, David. And you're like, what's up, dude? And this and that. And I walk up, and it wasn't until I actually got up on your face. I'm like, Dave Jams. I'm like, holy crap. And I was like, now I know who you are. And I was like, what's this David Rolas? Where did this happen? So that was a classic moment, man. So
Well,
when did you transition from Jams to Rolas?
so that's a good question. A lot of people ask me that, and it's actually basically the same thing. So David Jams, Rolas. But I used to have a buddy of mine, my boy C's, and he used to clown me all the time. I don't even, he wasn't even a clown, but he was just like, he was always just talking smack. And he was like, you should just change your name instead of Dave Jams to David Rolas. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, that's in Spanish, Jams, Rolas. And I'm like, well, and I thought about it, and I'm like, interesting. But I had already built such such an amazing trajectory with Dave Jams, at DJing, and I never left that. I'm still Dave Jams forever. You know what I'm saying? But the transition with David Rolas came really easy for me because what I did is I used David Rolas more as my artist, my artist name, my artistic name, rather than my DJ name. And but that's where it came from. It stems from a buddy of mine just clowning me, hey, Dave Rolas, and then it stuck, and everybody, would tell me like, oh, just that's a great idea. So I did, and me especially doing the Spanish hip hop, the Latin hip hop, it made a lot more sense than going by Dave Jams.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it made easier. It made a lot more
flowed
sense
better with Latino 96.
flowed better with with the Latino community. So yeah, that's what the transition was to David Rolas. And but yeah, man, and it's funny because I was my last, right before when I started getting better, I got a call from Pio Ferro, and him and Jerry Puyes were like, hey, so we'd love to sit down with you. And I Latino had just gone on the air, and they were doing they were just doing, there was no DJs, so they're just running music,
Mm-hmm.
but they were breaking all this reggaeton shit, all this new stuff that I was like, whoa, like where's all this music coming from? Because I'm doing Latin hip hop, more,
Right.
more Latin hip
More
hop
the
type stuff,
urban stuff, yeah.
or the urban style, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So all this reggaeton starts breaking records, they start breaking all these reggaeton records, and back then it was just the music. So I sat down with Jerry and with Bio, and they said, well, you're the second person that we sit down with for an idea that we have to bring jocks onto the station. And we know your music really well. As a matter of fact, one of my songs, La Fiesta, I did a West Coast reggaeton remix of it, and it actually got put into rotation. And it was
Nice.
one of the actual songs that was playing on the station. So they said, well, we love your music. We love what you do. And you're an LA guy. We want LA people. We want people that know the streets, people that know the music. So, and you've been a DJ at clubs for years. To this day, Jerry Puya still calls me Dave Jams. Like he still calls me Dave Jams. But so anyway, so yeah, I sat down, had lunch with both of them, and lo and behold, got the opportunity. And when I first started, they wanted to test the water, so I started doing weekends. So I was just doing weekends, at the time, just to kind of test the waters. And eventually, they said, you know what? And then they brought Eddie One on board. So they filled up 3 to 7. They had Roxy on in the early, midday or
Mornings.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They had her on from 10 to 3. Then they had Eddie on from 3 to 7. And then they approached me and they said, yo, we want you to be our evening guy, 7 to midnight. I was ecstatic, bro, because I had never done like a full-time gig like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done little things here and there. When I was on Power, I did a few little things here and there, but I never got the opportunity to do my.
That was prime time, man. You were a prime time DJ now, yeah?
Yeah, and it was a blessing, man. I was there for a really long time, very, very long time.
Yeah.
I was there for 8 years, and I was just blessed, bro, to be able to do LA radio. I mean, I think at one point on my show, which was one of my highs, we had I think we were number 3 in the ratings for that time slot in LA, and even to make the top 5, it's just what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge.
It's amazing.
Especially
So
back in
we did that
those days. Now, today, radio is much different. But when you
Very
were there, the ratings were, I mean, it was tough to get into those slots. So
Yeah.
you did a great job. So
and we
we're pretty much coming up to the end of this interview. But before we go, like right now, you're still on air.
Yes.
And you also own your recording studio. So let's talk
Yes.
real quick about your on air, where you're at right now, and your recording studio.
So I do. I moved to Salt Lake for 3 years. Came back to LA. Still do my show in Salt Lake for Latino 106.3 in Salt Lake. I do the afternoon drive show there from 5 to 8. I do a mix show there as well called the Traffic Jam. So I'm still on in Salt Lake City. Very blessed to still have that. And then I have an opportunity that I transmit live here from my studio to Mexico City. I do a show called En Lo Mío for a station called Pégate Radio, which is broadcast through the entire Republic of Mexico. So it's all of Mexico. And I do it live every day here from my studio in Montebello. And yeah, man, I have my studio. I'm working on music. So if anybody is looking for some studio time, maybe if you're COVID free, you know what I'm saying? I keep the studio to a minimum because it's a very safe haven for artists to come and work and do their music. So if you're safe, man, and by all means, reach out, at official David Rolas. You can find me on Instagram, David Rolas on Twitter. But yeah, man, I have my studio working on music. I, got nominated for a Latin Grammy. We got all kinds of fun
Beautiful,
stuff
man.
going on.
Yeah.
So, I'm just blessed to see you again, Fernando. And maybe we could do a second half of the interview so we can talk a
There
little
we
bit
go.
more in details about everything else. But, I
Exactly.
got you, brother, and I love you to death, man.
Likewise, man. It's been a pleasure. It had been so long that you and I had caught up, and I'm really glad that I was able to have you on here. And as always, man, igual, I'm here for you, brother. Congratulations. Keep up the great work. And of course, you that's watching, we're going to have all of David's links right here in the description. So if you like this episode, make sure you hit the like. And of course, as always, subscribe if you have not done so. Click the bell so that you get notified when I have yet another amazing talent. Brother David, God bless. Stay safe.
Muchos saludos a ti y a toda la familia, brother.